28th SDIC meeting. Hoping everybody is doing fine with this weather front that is moving through. It is quite the storm. Reminder.
Let's hear it for the trip Weir. Woohoo!
Yeah, thank you, Ken.
We've put it to good use this year.
Yeah, just for the record, this meeting is being recorded, and it looks like everybody is working remote today, so that makes this very easy and efficient. For a roll call vote, who is present? Ken Anderton.
Here.
Tanny Stephenson.
Here. And
Tom Hansel is present. Annalise is vacant today. Okay, we are looking at the V2 agenda, and thanks for the updates on the executive director's report. Lots going on. I noticed there's some staffing turnover. MCD is like so many other business. They're losing talent, and it's hard when that knowledge leaves our organizations. I really feel for the team, both from the operations and the planning side. So Jim, good luck with a strong recruitment. That's another tough thing we're all facing as well, is finding talent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Bill, are you ready to talk about our gate tower?
I am. Let's do it. So, good afternoon, all. I have the opportunity today to talk about one of your favorite topics, the gate tower and the drainage system below the cross levee between your district and the adjacent MCD district. There were three components in the meeting package today. One was the one-page summary, along with some slides and a resolution. And I'll get to all three in a moment here. As you may recall, over a series of meetings, but most recently, your corporation went through and finished a drainage master plan, which identified the need to address the gate tower and really focus a lot on the benefits, the technical benefits that it provides. There was a further presentation about that gate tower structure as it relates to the FEMA accreditation projects that Mark provided in September of 2022, and then just this past November, the MCD board took up this topic as well. So I'm here today to talk about the gate tower and principally ownership of the tower and maintenance responsibilities of that assets and associated structures. So let me have let me move over to the slides. You have these in your packet, so I won't dwell on them for very long. Let me share my screen. Good. Let me know when you all can see this.
Looks good.
All right, well, very good. So as you probably recall, the gate towers and the culverts are along the cross levee, very close to the Sandy pump station, which is located just north of Marine Drive here. And the towers are just, the tower and the culverts are just south of Marine Drive. This colorful graphic is a little busy, but what it tends to do is to provide some context of drainage area, local drainage area through the gate tower and culverts. So, the Blue Lake Regional Park is located just west of the tower and the structures. The water flows through the culverts and then into Salmon Creek and then eventually north, going to the Sandy pump station. Let's see. So the tower, the structures themselves, there are three components to the system. One is the gate tower itself, which is on the far left side. There are two 42-inch corrugated metal pipes, and then two flat valves on the east side where Salmon Creek is located. The two end pieces have a specific function. The gate tower on the left-hand side here has two slide gates that fall over the opening of the 42-inch culverts and primarily block water from flowing into those culverts from the MCDD side. And those gates are there to control that flow, but also during emergencies when MCDD may be inundated from a flood or a levee breach, but SDIC is still dry, these valves theoretically can drop and protect SDIC. On the opposite side of the culverts are these flat valves. These are cast iron valves and function in the same manner. There are two of them, one for each of the culverts. And the idea is that these valves they're hinged, and so they could be placed over the entrances of or the openings of these culverts and block water from going backwards from the east side to the west side. Currently, these flat valves are not attached to the structure, the head wall of the pipes, and that's primarily because there's too much sediment silted in Salmon Creek, and this board and I have had conversations in past years about the need to remove sediments, not only in this general area, but along Salmon Creek between Marine Drive and south. But that's a topic for another day. But because of the sediment issues, the flat valves don't fully close, and so they were removed because they were not functional. So what have we done recently? Well, there has been some work, as you heard Mark provide some context for just recently related to the gate tower structure and its our need to improve it in order to complete one of the FEMA accreditation requirements. And so Mark has started that process. He's completed an alternatives analysis, and they've come up with a proposal to replace the structure and possibly even the culverts underneath. And that's what the graphic on the bottom represents. It was similar to a couple of other structures we have in the districts. The slide gates will be moved to the center of the levee, and the culverts would remain in place or be lined in some manner. But starting to do capital work on these structures requires us to identify who owns the assets and who's also responsible for maintaining the assets. Again, there are three different assets here: the gate tower itself, the culverts, and the flat valves on the far right side. The drainage master plan. Oops, yep, there we go. Sorry. Yeah, this slide provides an overview of what I mentioned previously. MCDD has passed a resolution just recently to accept ownership and long-term maintenance responsibility of the gate tower structure, as well as the two culverts that go underneath the cross levee. And they did so in recognition that the primary benefit of those structures is for MCDD's benefit for drainage purposes. There is on very rare occasions an opportunity for water from Salmon Creek to go backwards into Blue Lake Park, but as you've read and heard presentations about those situations are pretty few and far between. On the east end are those two flap valves. And as the slide suggests, it does provide protection from SDIC for MCDD if SDIC is flooded and MCDD is not. And so staff's recommendation at the time when these slides were put together initially was for MCDD to own the gate tower structure and the culverts, and for SDIC to own the two flap valves on the far on the east side. So we've had those discussions with MCD, and now I'm here today to talk about the flap valves with y'all, and hopefully answer some questions you might have, because I believe it's should be the last slide.
Questions for Bill? Bill, I don't have any questions, but I just want to thank you and your team. And I think Tanny might have had some participation in this to have this discussion and really consider ownership of that asset or assets as you've broken it down cleanly. Thank you for your work on that. This makes a lot of sense to me, the way it's been laid out, and for MCDD's discussion and a consideration of their resolution to accept ownership of the two assets.
Good, thanks. I know Ken has also been
Yeah.
significantly involved in contributions.
Thanks for doing all the research. It made it a lot easier for us to make those decisions. So we appreciate it.
Group effort.
Appreciate all the work by staff on this. Thank you.
Bill, I guess one area is with the FEMA, with the accreditation, does this change the deck chairs at all, or is this just? Because I think that, how does the deficiency noted on the gate tower play out? Because we're 4 districts. I mean, is there anything to worry about there, or is it a non-starter, not an issue for us to consider?
For the SDIC board to consider?
Yeah, I mean, from the accreditation standpoint, and Colin, I see you entered, so I don't know how to really ask the question, but I know we were kind of identified with a deficiency with that gate tower, SDIC. That's my recollection, but Colin, you'll make it clear if there's anything.
A great question. I think so my understanding of your question is, does it change anything in the eyes of FEMA, the ownership of the particular asset, and especially for SDIC, does it change anything around recertification in particular for SDIC? And so it doesn't. The project still needs to be completed for SDIC or MCDD to be recertified. And it's because it's that shared cross levy. I think it is a nice clarification of the ownership and responsibility for doing the project in our current system in 4 districts. But as far as could SDIC recertify without the project being completed, and the answer is no.
Thanks, Colin.
So depending on the board's preference, there is a resolution available to you for consideration. It should be, looks like it's on page 7 of your meeting packets, which would accept ownership and responsibility of the 2 flap valves I referenced.
And Tommy, do you want me to drop that language into the chat for you?
Tom, you're muted.
We're looking for a motion to approve resolution 2022-12-02 accepting ownership and responsibility of a certain MCDD SDIC cross levy gate tower facility. Would Tanny or Ken like to move on that?
I would, I just didn't see that in the packet.
I was looking for it as well, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Do
I
we
gotta
have
tell
some,
you,
can somebody provide some suggested language?
no, is it page 7 in mine is a memo from Hong.
Yeah, this is the version 2 agenda that Emily shared with us.
The 1228.
Yes.
Okay.
I have it sent on December 14 at 2:40 p.m.
Okay. Well, I will move on that motion. I just don't have it pulled up.
I'll second Tanny's motion to approve that resolution. Any discussion?
No, I was gonna say I finally found it. Sorry, it took me a minute. I need a second big screen here because I have to look at my laptop, so I have to squint here. But I will second that. Or if you already seconded it, I have no other discussion.
I think we're unanimous. Let's go ahead and do a roll call vote. Ken Anderton,
Approve.
Tanny
Yes.
Stephenson,
Yes.
and Tom Hansel approves. Motion passes. Thanks, Emily. Thank you, Bill.
Great, thank you all.
Hey, how's it going? So just before we get this sent out for the approval signatures, if you could add a signature block for my review, I'd appreciate that. Excellent, thank you.
Is Hong with us today?
I'm stepping in for Hong on this topic, Tom.
Oh, Lori, you're so
Hey.
talented. Thank
And
you.
Hong, just so you all know, Hong is on a much deserved break, so. And we have Armand here as well, who can try and help us or help us follow up after if need be.
Yep.
Exactly. So in your packet today, you have some information on the IGA related to the trip Weir. And really, as I talked through this with Hong, this is really an administrative issue because each year MCDD updates their rates that they charge each of the districts, and that rate increase is aligned with the increases in pay that happen for the employees each July. And what we found was that this agreement with the port did not have language to be able to true up those rates. So it was potentially possible that MCDD could increase our rates to SDIC for the services performed, but SDIC did not have a way to correct for that billing rate between them and the port. So this language change allows for us to true up those rates between the entities and do so via a notification to the port that just tells them, here's what the new rates are. So it really is cleaning up that administrative process and making sure that there aren't differences in rates between the entities. I believe Brian has had an opportunity to review the language changes, but if there are questions, Armand and I are happy to try to respond.
Yep, that's correct. I've had the opportunity to review that, made some suggestions for it, and also got my questions answered about some past practices. And so I'm satisfied with what's presented here.
Perfect, thank you. Other questions?
Makes clear sense. Thanks for the efficiency of an IGA standing longer than just 1 year that we'd have to adjust rates every year. Tanny, Ken, anything?
Makes sense to me.
One of you want to take a crack at a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir. Yes, Danny?
I move adoption of resolution 2022-12-01, approving the First Amendment to the intergovernmental agreement between the Port of Portland and Sandy Drainage Improvement Company for services relating to the trip flow control structure.
We have a motion and a second.
I'll second that with realization that I am conflicted, having worked for my employer as the Port of Portland. So
Hearing that request, I'll go ahead and do the second, so you are not on that document. That makes good sense. Brian, you okay with that? Yeah. We have a motion and a second, roll call vote. Tammy Stephenson,
Yes.
Ken Anderton,
yes.
and Tom Hansel, yes. Motion passes. Brian, Hong, Lori, thanks for MCD's for organization and making this work. Thank you all.
Thank you.
So Emily shared so Ken and I had missed the last format meeting where Matt came in and did a presentation. Emily, thank you for sending that presentation out. I watched it, listened to it, heard the dialogue. So I'm ready to, just have any discussion. Ken, were you able to absorb that material? Or would you like Matt to do an overview?
Could this get a quick overview?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for your time today. As a quick overview, the presentation that we talked about on the 8th was to support the memo and the draft chapter that we provided to you in the packet, moving towards the draft natural hazard mitigation plan, multi-jurisdictional mitigation plan led by the county. And the chapter provided summarizes our involvement and the types of hazards and types of mitigation strategies we're taking to address those hazards. The information we shared was draft and moving towards a public review period that the county thankfully has held off on so that we could get your approval to participate in that public review. And the information there and summarized in the memo was intended to give you background on the times we've come to talk to you in prior meetings about this plan and the work that we've put in as a staff, both in the last few months that I've been here, as well as my predecessor, so that we can, as an organization, join this multi-jurisdictional plan and be eligible for natural hazard mitigation assistance. And so what we shared through that presentation were a series of slides talking about some of the benefits, the primary benefit being that we would have greater access to funding and that we would be more flexible and more nimble in responding to natural hazards. And so that's kind of a general overview of where we are. The real key take homes that I want to share is that not only is there a lot of flexibility in future steps of this process as we move through the public review to review from the state and review from the FEMA before it comes back to us for adoption. There's a lot of opportunity to chime in on the details. Our intention is to really have you feel informed at this point so we can move forward with the public review and the many steps to come over the next few months so that when we ask for your adoption, you feel informed and prepared to adopt the plan.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Sure. And I'm happy to answer any questions around that.
Thank you, Matt. Great presentation. This recap and the one you did on the 8th, I appreciated reviewing that. And very comprehensive, lots of plans to be considering with the 4 districts. But what I took away was it's really a planning tool. It's not set in stone. We're not required to complete anything. They're aspirational, right?
That's
So-
correct. And it's a
Oh.
non-regulatory plan. We're not obligated to complete the mitigation strategies within it, nor are we obligated to do it in a prioritized order. We have a lot of flexibility around it.
The one question I had, organized under ORS 554, I'm familiar with FEMA's public assistance grant program, and I know this is a composite of that. Organized under 554, are we eligible for FEMA public assistance? Should we have an event? Because I was only able to read that special districts or some governments were eligible. 554 were established under, a drainage improvement company. So just kind of curious. It wasn't real obvious to me that SDIC was clearly denoted as an eligible entity under public assistance funding.
And this is, the question is really outside of the scope of the natural hazard mitigation plan. Is that correct?
But I thought they were kind of connected. It's a FEMA program, and I assume it's very similar to the public assistance, which is typically exercised after an event. The mitigation plan is all about, getting funding to prevent something from occurring.
Right.
I'm more familiar with the cleanup after the event.
And I do believe we have gotten reimbursement for SDIC before. If Janet was here, she would be able to say, but I guess just anecdotally, I recall we track time in SDIC for emergency response for those reasons. So I guess I'm not an expert, but I would say at least to my knowledge, how we have treated administratively, it's always been approached that way.
Yeah, Emily's correct. During the December 2015 rain event, which was a presidentially declared disaster, we were able to receive FEMA funding, and they did review that question. So it is a special purpose government, but as you noted, it is organized as a drainage improvement company. So it is different than the drainage districts.
Thank you all for letting me go down that rabbit hole. It's just my wonkiness being in government. I get a little nervous about the I's and the T's being crossed.
Sure
So,
thing, of course.
Tanny, any other questions for Matt?
I'm good, thank you.
And Matt, thanks for following up with me on the questions that I had at the meeting.
Certainly. Thank you. Thank you
Appreciate
for the
that.
questions. You really spotted something that needs to be clarified in there. So I appreciate the keen eye.
Thank you.
And Matt, you're looking for us to approve the plan to be pushed out for public comment?
That's correct, Mr. Chair. The steps moving forward are to open the greater plan up for public review, and our component of that would be Chapter 5E that was provided in the packet. So to move through public process, we would like your approval to participate in that public review. And in doing so, you'll be more informed about what we're proposing. So months down the road, you'll feel more prepared to adopt.
Mm-hmm. So I think the motion we're looking for is incorporated in the staff recommendation on page 20. Matt's report to us.
I have a staff recommendation on page 17 for approving the draft Columbia Corridor Drainage District section of the Multnomah County Multi-Jurisdictional Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan. Is that helpful?
Do you have we don't have a resolution for this one, right?
That's correct. This is
Just a motion.
Yeah,
That's right.
It's just a motion to approve the plan.
Yeah, I think on page 17, it has, I'm guessing it's that first paragraph.
Do you want it, Ken?
I'd go for it. Unless you have it. I have it in front of me.
Go ahead.
Okay. MCDD, I'll make a motion that MCD staff has requested the board approve the draft Columbia Corridor Drainage District section of the Multnomah County multi-jurisdictional natural hazard mitigation plan.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the plan. Roll call vote. Ken Anderton,
Aye.
Kenny Stephenson,
Aye.
and Tom Hansel votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
So I want to appreciate Lori for distributing the bank register. We had talked about that earlier meeting. It's just kind of eye-opening to see where the dollars go in it. And I know that that will allow us to ask a question of you or your team to kind of dig deeper if we want to see any detail. And-
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. And Tom, I'm planning on, at your next board meeting, I'll be bringing a presentation of the financials.
Oh, great.
We're also planning to be providing an operations update going forward after this meeting as well, which you had requested, or maybe it was one of the other boards. I don't remember, but it's a great idea. And they've been working really hard over the last few days, just so you know.
Oh, yeah, Randy used to come in periodically and just kind of walk through what he's seeing, what his crews are doing out there, and it's, you know, anecdotal for us, but it's his work, his crew's activities. So it's kind of good to keep a little connected to the work that's being done to support these districts.
Yeah, they're the heart and soul for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially the conditions they had to work through this last few days. It's I don't know if you were out in it, but man, it was windy and it was cold and it was horrible, you know, so I appreciate them out there keeping us safe.
And to boot over the holidays too, so maybe taking folks away from their families. It's extremely difficult for these public works employees.
Well, great job. And it looks like, thanks again to Ken and the port for allowing the extra storage, the flood storage. Lake Anderton looks really good. And I think, Ken, you've got a couple more lakefront properties, lots for sale over there too, right?
That's great. It's hoping it will improve the value of those lots. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We're going to do some different marketing.
Take your motorboat out there for New Year's and water ski. Maybe. Okay, maybe
And
not.
Mr. Chair, just one more acknowledgement that got missed earlier. I do think it's worth recognizing Janet, because she was sort of instrumental in prodding the collective team to solve for the gate tower. So I just think it's worth acknowledging that her demand that we finally address this question that I know from Tanny has been apparently lingering for a while. So she was part of getting the ball rolling, and I think settling something that I hope will provide some benefits from here through dissolution. So just wanting to note, seemed like it was a historic matter, that it's good that we have been able to address it. And thanks to everybody for that.
Jim, I really skimmed over your executive report. Anything you want to dwell on? I do want to acknowledge, Steve, Casey, and Evan for their contributions to supporting SDIC in all the districts. I saw one was a retiree, so all the best to, I think it was, is that Steve?
Steve, yeah.
Yeah, so.
He's got himself a new spread and he's pretty excited about it, so.
That's exciting. At the same time, having that knowledge exit the organization is also difficult. So
yeah, I think the one acknowledgement I would make would be to Bill and Astor and Hong and the procurement team, who've really been instrumental in helping us address Pump Station 4. So from sort of emergency declarations coming out of Hong and some procurement changes from her, and from Bill just constantly paying attention and working with our jurisdictional partners, and Astor doing all the outreach. The circumstances are far better for our crew, and we're actually able to access that site and run the pump and keep our crew safe. So just pretty monumental amount of effort that went into that, also from the port, from the city, from others. But, you know, Bill really has been grabbing that thing by the collar and hanging on, and Randy and his crew have helped, and Astor's been instrumental. So just know there's been a lot of good work that's gone into that. And so far, all of our partners are being really helpful in keeping the place cleaned up. So my in-laws dog is here whining at me. My apologies. She can't be loose with our dog when no one's around because she will beat her up. So we're spending time together.
I also noted in the report, you highlighted some of the work that's occurring within the urban flood water safety waterfall district. You know, the revenue model, trying to build it, and struggles around revenue collection. Huge lift. And I'm hopeful that momentum continues, but there's some, I've been listening in on some of the meetings, and it's a huge discussion. And thank you.
Definitely some work to be done. We're, I think it would be fair to say we're in a bit of a storming phase currently, don't you think, Ken and Tanny? But I think we're zeroing in, and we're kind of getting to the nut of the issue, which is how much revenue initially does this organization need to launch? And I think with help from Ken and Tanny, we're going to get there. It's going to be a little turbulent between now and then, but I think people recognize the importance of making some of these hard decisions. So hopefully the staff can provide good support, help you guys get through that. But getting a lot of good help from the board.
And the timeline is impressive as well. So
I'm clinging to it. We'll see.
Tanny, Ken, thank you for your work on that. Huge lift.
We are still looking for a business representative on the board. So if any of you know somebody good, I think that's a voice that would benefit the overall debate if we can find somebody willing and able to serve. So my neighbor who owns Level Brewing is back from a month-long out of the country trip. So I'm going to try and see if he'd be interested. But if you all know anybody, please let us know, and we'll try and reach out to them. That voice, again, is pretty critical.
Any closing comments, anyone?
I had a couple. Troutdale made a kind of a backward request to have their urban renewal property dropped from district assessment. And I look at that, and I don't think we would want to do that. It's about $8,000 a year in revenue. And the reason they'd be doing it is they're getting ready to sell the property to a potential developer. But the property inland from that is in the district. And this is closer to the river. And I don't know how you could not have that be part of SDIC. Any flood mitigation that's done with the, with the river the Sandy not backing up is going to benefit that property.
Tanny, have they made a formal request to us?
No.
So Eric Mueller approached Hong and me after an urban board meeting, and he wanted to state clearly that he was there as a person who was interested in Troutdale. Please don't consider him a board member. And he sought our advice on how to approach SDIC about this issue. And we told him to check with you, Tom, or with Tanny, as Troutdale's rep would be the first step for him. And Hong provided that advice, I believe, in a phone call and in some emails. Armand, you might have been copied on some of those, I don't recall. And so he said he would take it up with you all. So yeah, that's where we left things with him. If there's staff support you need, we'd be happy to try and jump in.
No, I didn't have any emails. Hong mentioned it to me at the format and said, do you know anything about this? And I said, no. And I was just going to, cut the legs out from underneath it, sooner than later. Was just kind of my take on it. But we can wait till they do a formal request.
Yeah, or if you want staff to follow up and say we'd have the opportunity to hear from at least a couple of the board members, and you might have your work cut out for you, but we did tell him to connect with the board because it's in your purview.
Okay. I'll just wait for him. If that's okay, we'll just wait for him to do that.
Okay, and then we'll make sure and communicate to the board any contacts we have about the topic.
Are you guys in agreement? I can't see where we'd want to release that property. I don't think it would make any sense.
Yeah, all I would ask is a bit of a legal briefing on what our authorities are and what specific laws we're working under. This is not current to me, so.
Right, yeah, I've looked at it. I have an idea. I can put something together for you.
We did do an exercise for Pen 1. We brought stuff back in, and it was a fairly significant judicial proceeding. I think SDIC may be organized differently, and there may be a different approach. I think Hong did some initial looking, but thank you, Brian, for your help with it. We'll obviously keep you in the loop if we hear anything from Troutdale directly at the staff level.
I'd say, doesn't some of the infrastructure protect that property and keep it out of the floodplain? So that would be my first, if it's protecting it and keeping it out of the floodplain with them having not purchased flood insurance, that might be an indication of whether they should be included or not.
Yeah, I think once the petition request comes, then we can have a briefing on it and come to a decision. I'm not well versed on this at this point.
Yeah, what I'll do, I mean, it's pretty simple. It's in ORS chapter 554, and it talks about people requesting to have their property excluded from the district. Basically what I'll do is I'll just copy and paste it. It's pretty self-explanatory when it comes down to the process for that.
Thank you, Brian.
Seeing no other discussion, let's go ahead and adjourn the December 28th SDIC board meeting. Happy New Year, everybody. Be safe. Take care.